I want to the year with people they love. Want to get a shakeleti love. See love when I want to get another one. I go take and do waiting I love. Waiting you love, oh. No be waiting I love, oh. Waiting I love, I go do what we do, I go. Go no be vodka. Mr. Money Changer. But when I know the waste time. Mr.
Hello, Ghana. Good evening, wherever you are. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen around the world. Welcome to the Direct Talk Show. It is a program, as you know, has been designed to educate you, to empower you so you can make informed decisions. We are here to discuss issues trending or going on in Ghana. You can join the discussion by bringing in your comment, your views via our Facebook page, or our YouTube page, or our WhatsApp channel. You are watching us live on Have Your Tech Media, and on YouTube is HYT African TV. HYT African TV. You can also follow us on Instagram at HYT Africa. HYT Africa. That is where you can follow us on our social media platform. That is Instagram. The Direct Talk Show comes your way every Sunday, 7 p.m. UK time. If you're not in the UK, please check on Google so you can know the exact time and you can tune in and listen to what is going on. Share the link with your friends and share the link with your family to join. This is a program to educate you. It's a program about Ghana. It's a program that we talk about issues bothering us as a country. Today, we've got a very interesting topic. It's a topic that is dear to my heart. We're going to look at corruption and poor infrastructure in the health sector in Ghana. Corruption has become a problem for our country, and we're going to look into how we can address them, what is going on, and what needs to be done. As I said, you can join the discussion by submitting your comment or putting your comment via our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or our WhatsApp channel, and we will get back to you. Today, I've got 3 panelists to help me do the discussion. Number 1 on my list is Kate Jones. She is a learning and development practitioner. Auntie Kate, welcome. As I've got Elisha Timbo. He is a physician, a pharmacist, sorry. He's a pharmacist. And I've also got Godson Doga, who's also a project execution portfolio director. What a name. What a solid. Sometimes, you need to take your time to know what the areas these people are coming from. Very solid and strong. Welcome, panelists, to the Direct Talk Show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Today we are looking at a very important topic, and I think it's not new to many Ghanaians, and that is corruption. And I was going through some reports that I saw. I mean, recently it was conducted by the UN. And if you go through the report, you can see that some of the things that has been going on, or that things that are going on currently. Anyway, the report was conducted in 2002, so it's relatively new, not too old. And what I find it very shocking is that the police, or those who are supposed to ensure that the law is working, are more I don't want to use the word corrupt, but I don't know any word to use at the moment. Then, I mean, those who have been appointed, the judiciary, the police, those who are in charge of making sure that we keep corruption, these are the people, I mean, on top of the ladder. So today you've got a lot to answer, and I've got a lot of questions to throw at you. And I think a lot of people, our viewers, have got a lot to say as well. So to start with, I believe in tradition. So ladies first. Kate,
yes.
Can you provide an overview of the current state of corruption in Ghana and how it compares to the previous years? What I mean by previous years, I'm talking about the administration of the previous government, that is NDC, and then current. So that's what I mean by the previous year. So can you provide an overview of the state of corruption in Ghana, if you could compare, today and the previous years?
Okay. Good evening to your viewers, your listeners, and your followers. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to my fellow panelists. Yes, once again, we're here. Now, corruption. If you ask me if I compare corruption to between the governments, I would say the less or the least score for NDC is the highest score for NPP. This is no word. Google it. Transparency International, they always have a trajectory for countries to follow. They do this every year. 2023 was no different. In fact, NDC in 2014, which was Mills government, our highest score was 48. I mean, remember, it's a developing country, so a lot of factors, which I'm sure we will diverge into during this program, will come to light. We scored 48. The next year we scored 47. And even in 2017, when we were handing over, that was our least score, 40. Our least score. And then 2018, about 41. And then 2019, from 2019 till now, we have stagnated around the 40. And now last year it was 40. 40. The score was 40, the low, very low. MPP in 2014 scored 40. And last year they scored 40. So it's been stagnant for a few years when we talk about the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index. So if you ask me which country, which government or which party does better, obviously it's the NDC, and the data does not lie. If I am telling lies, then Transparency International is also telling lies. I think the question should also center around why. Why are we here? Why are we here? I can, if you permit me, why are we here?
Go ahead.
This government over and over and over has proven not to have the interest of Ghanaians at heart. They came in with an agenda, and the agenda was Nyaye papa ntimi anye no yenso ye ba beji edu yeso Nyaye papa or Nyaye papa mo ntimi anye no edu yeso e was see etimeji. If you have looked at the trajectory of all their initiations and their interventions, you will see Eja at the beginning. Eja is what in tree. Eja is fathers, isn't it? Take the Ejapa deal. Okay, the most corrupt deal so far that a government has imposed on its people. shrouded in cronyism, shrouded in nepotism, shrouded in thievery, stealing from the ordinary people. When you have such a government in power, what do you think they will do to combat corruption? They themselves are corrupt. And they came in with a corrupt agenda to rob the Ghanaians of what their fathers could not take from Ghanaians. So if you ask me, it is the nature of the people we have in power now. Under Mahama and Mills, we saw that corruption was being dealt with. How did they do it? They were doing it, or they did it with stronger institutions. Okay, they started with stronger institutions. I'm sure some of you will remember when President Mills would show up in a workplace and with no warning, and then, you know, when he goes, he gives instructions, gives orders, and things will be put into place. We saw how Mahama sacked one of his deputies for even contemplating about getting money, a certain amount of money, contemplating, she hasn't done it in office. We saw how some people, the three, they were in prison. They were trialed and in prison. If you can help me with the names of those.
Come back. Just run up for me. We'll come to the names.
Yes. So they were. So what I mean to say finally is that we NDC, we fight corruption. We do things. We put measures in place. We put institutions in place to fight corruption. Whilst MPP, as you can tell from the numerous scandals, from the numerous £1,000,000 under beds, which investigation picks up and falls into the ditch, you can see among the two of us who is in a position or who does well to fight corruption.
Thank you, Kate, for your submission. You are listening to the Direct Talk Show. It comes your way every Sunday. I will come to Godson. Auntie Kate mentioned about scandals. Can you discuss some of the most notable corruption scandals in Ghana and their impact on public trust?
Yeah, thank you very much, Austin, and thank you again, and grateful to be here again, and thank you for your audience, and RCK, thank you, and Elijah also, good to see you as well on the show. RCK did a good job, but before I answer your question, Austin, just to elaborate a bit more on the state of corruption, I will summarize that corruption is a cancer in Ghana now, and is spreading like a wildfire. That will be my summary of corruption in Ghana. And everything we're doing, everything that is happening and has happened in Ghana for the last few years is all an act of corruption. And I'm not surprised we got there. And that is because the corruption itself is from the head of the institution and the head of the government. And that is why it permeates all through the various government and institution within Ghana. The first thing was that, you remember the speech that our president, Nana Akufo-Addo, read on his inauguration day in 2017? It was a plagiarized speech. That was the beginning of corruption for me. Okay, let's put that down straightforward. And ever since they also came, every policy they've been trying to implement, they have no policy of their own. It's a corruption that they are practicing. They steal NDC policies and they rebrand it with a new name, and that is what they're trying to do. And they've never succeeded in implementing them as the blueprint that the NDC wanted to implement. So that is the second point that I want to make here. And I can go into the details of most of these policies of NDC that were stolen or corrupted by the NPP. And so if you look at the NPP in itself, I want to put it here and submit to the floor. It's a corrupt state of a party permeating its corruption through all the various institutions in Ghana. Kate Bradley also said the motive of coming into government wasn't in the interest of the state. It was in the interest also to corrupt Ghana, to steal from Ghana, and just loot and share. So for me, I would want to lay that foundation very clear from the beginning so that everybody knows where we are. And so if they are looting today in a mass scale and we see it, and it's being reported by all institutions, to me, it's not a surprise. because the handwriting was already on the wall, and there is more to be revealed yet. At the moment, what we see are the cleaned versions. If you look at the State of the Nation's address, which is always a clean version of every government as much as possible, you read the last couple ones and it shocks you. If that is a clean version, what will be the debt that we will discover? It's a version that is put out there for the international community to have confidence in our Ghanaian institution, in our nation. And so be rest assured there is more revelation to come, and there is more to be revealed in terms of corruption. Now, coming back to the exam question, Austin, here, it is corruption has a wider and multifaceted impact. Okay. And here, if I want to address just the impact of corruption on our society, I would need a whole day to look at it from the socio-political and the economical angle in all our developmental programs for you. I'm going to touch just one piece. If it is the money that is looted is the only thing we loses as a nation, then at least we'll be far better off. But it's not. Money that is made for the health sector, if it is looted, it means more people will die without receiving the right treatment. It means very good doctors in our hospital will not be able to do what they have taken oath, swear an oath to deliver, save lives. They will not be able to do that because the tools and the equipment won't be there. It means well-meaning doctors who have the good intention of doing a good job, being led by corrupt leaders, will begin to be underutilized. It also means that well-meaning Ghanaians could also, or resources will be overutilized. When I want to use a typical situation of the overutilization, if I want to use the Tema motorway to commute from Accra to Tema, and the Tema motorway is totally dysfunctional, full of potholes, I would want to turn and use the Tema Beach Way. And by doing so, the Tema Beach Way becomes overutilized, and within a short period of time, that also begins to decay. So as a state, as we go along, I'll talk more about the impact of corruption. The impact of corruption is so dire and so serious that we have sent a lot of people to their early grave when they needed not to die. And that is simply because someone somewhere did not allow the right funds to reach the end user. Mr. Austin, it looks like you're mute. You're saying something.
Yes,
Yeah.
So some of the scandals, because you were talking about people looting. So
Yeah.
on this program, we want to be specific and we want to get the facts right.
So
can you
some of the
explain
scandals, I will go from the top.
some of the corruption scandals?
Yeah.
Do you have any
Going
example?
from the top, one is the PDS scheme.
Okay.
It's a total fiasco, and the green light, the government facilitating a loot of the country's wealth. Another one is the MLS of a revenue assurance program that is totally not needed. And even we as a state, MLS get 5% of every revenue that is collected just for doing a purported assurance that is already done by another institution. As a state, a country, we get 5% of royalties in the country. So how can MLS doing revenue assurance get 5% of revenue, even if they were doing the job? But in this case, they do nothing, and 5% goes straight into their pocket. The next one I want to mention is a Japa. A Japa is another deadly thing. And for the records to your audience, let us not be fooled. A Japa is still on the table, and they are trying to push it through. All of that happened 4 years ago on a Japa was that it was referred back to Parliament for further consultation. Let us not Ghanaians be fooled. They are trying to still push a Japa through. In last year, August, they sent 5 updated policies to Parliament, and use their numbers to get it signed off in a smart way, without public view, without public debate on the floor of parliament, within 24 hours. These thieves still want to get a JAPA through. And a JAPA is a wicked act. I will go to that extent. Do you know what, Austin? And for your audience, in the last 4 years that a JAPA has stalled, the revenues that Ghana has collected is over 600 million royalties. But the Ejapa deal was meant to give Ghana $500 million. And then our lifetime of royalties is gone. What wickedness! We were going for 500 million. In 4 years, we've made more than 600 million. But this Ejapa thing on this table would take Ghana's royalties away from us for a lifetime. And that is why I'm so happy that His Excellency John Mahama has said, when it comes to government, no matter the state of this Ejapa thing, he will cancel it. And I will jubilate and I will mud myself in the pond here and jubilate when it gets cancelled, because this I see.
Mr. Dawson, can you run up for me?
To the core. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your input. You are listening to the Direct Talk Show. We are discussing corruption in Ghana. Let me come to my brother Elijah, but I've got some data to share, and then on that, you can comment on that. Now, according to a report that I'm reading, was commenced by the UN, so it's not coming from my pocket or my bedroom, and it's saying that 53.2% police officers takes bribe. Then it comes to the immigration service, that is 37.4%. Lands Commission, 32.4%. DVLA, 29.5%. Passports, 29%. Prosecutors, judges, and magistrates, 22.3%. Now, these are the top of government, agencies that are supposed to look after corruption or combat corruption. Police, the judiciary, and these are government institutions that are there to help the country grow and move forward. And I want to ask you, Mr. Elijah, in your opinion, what are the root causes of corruption based on the data that I just said? What are the root causes? What do you think are the root causes of corruption in our motherland, Ghana?
Thank you, Dr. Justin, and greetings to my fellow panelists and all viewers. That is the sad reality, isn't it? That the very people who are supposed to police our country and ensure things are done right by Ghanaians are the very ones who lead us into the ditch. They take the first step in ensuring that corruption is actually, what's the best term to use here? It's christened into every single household on the land. I'm glad you raised this question, because it is something I spend most of my days battling among my fellow professionals that I belong to on various platforms. And it will shock you to the bone how far some of them would go to defend some of these thievery, actions of thievery that is going on through the length and breadth of our country. And what the figures you mentioned are just the tips of the iceberg, if I may say. There is a World Health Commission report which concluded that, or revealed that 95% of resources allocated to health care are diverted into individual pockets. 95%. Can you believe it? So you have
Wow. So
$100
you have 25%
million
left for the country.
allocated for healthcare resources, and then 95 million of that ends into individual pockets. So what is left effectively is nothing, a drop in the ocean. So it's no wonder that we think we are working very hard to improve the lot of our people, and nothing is happening. The resources are simply not there. And as my colleagues, RC, Kate Jones, and Godson Doga have beautifully put it, these people are not there to rule for Ghanaians. They are simply there to loot for themselves and continue to provide for their families for generations on end, whilst the rest of us continue to suffer as victims of their grandiose thievery. So look, whichever way you look at it, the picture doesn't look good at all, And some of the reasons why these things are happening is weak institutions. And I will start off with a quote by Francois Valerian, who is the chair of International Transparency International. He said that corruption will continue to thrive until justice systems can punish wrongdoing and keep governments in check. He added that when justice is bought or politically interfered with, it is the people that suffer. Leaders should fully invest in and guarantee the independence of institutions that uphold the law and tackle corruption. It is the end of, corruption will continue to persist with impunity if these things are not done. And what do we see in our beloved country, Ghana? It's common knowledge that the judiciary, who are supposed to lead on the legal front in fighting against corruption, they have clearly been compromised by state players, and where they should mitigate or they should adjudicate cases and ensure corruption is dealt with, they look the other way, pretend they haven't seen anything, or their judgment is predetermined from higher authorities, and they've simply come and say things that everybody expects of them. So it's not far-fetched at all until these people do what they're supposed to do and strengthen state institutions, the likes of Yoko, the likes of Shraj, and I don't even want to hear about the Office of the Special Prosecutor. I think it was
about to come
created
to
to
that.
loot state funds.
Hold on. Let me
And
ask
as
you
far as
something.
I'm concerned,
Mr. Elijah, you just mentioned the special
Yes.
prosecutor. Then, don't you think his office has been fighting corruption, in your opinion? Because I think that is the reason why that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my view is the exact opposite. Our current president is very good at sound bites. He is very good at saying things he doesn't mean and doing things the exact opposite of what. From what we see, the Office of the Special Prosecutor has completely failed in its mandate. They've been there for God knows how many years now, at least 5 years since it was created. And it's effectively failed in achieving any of its aims. The most recent, which is absolutely scandalous, is finding a minister of state with several millions of foreign currency in their household. What is that money doing there? As far as we speak now, I have no knowledge that anybody could account for it. They couldn't tell the sources of it. And what do they
said it's a family money.
adjudicators do?
From
They
family.
order the Office of the Special Prosecutor to return all of that. Come on. What are we showing? What are we telling people out there? if we are state players, yeah, I'm hearing
I think
something in
you
the
haven't.
background. Was
Yeah,
that
your
you,
network
Dr.
is
Austin?
breaking off and on. So you've been going off and on. You were saying something about special prosecutor, and I was saying that with
I
that
see.
thing, the minister. We don't want to mention so many names here, but as you said, they said that the money that was found in her room, in her house, was some kind of family money.
Yes.
So,
I think Doc is public knowledge, so we can actually mention her
well,
name. This is all geared towards fighting the
Yes.
corruption, Doc.
all right. So you can continue what you are saying,
Absolutely.
Elijah. So as I said, you said there wasn't any reason, but
Yes.
this is the explanation that has come up that it was family money. So what you say to that?
They would say that, wouldn't they? Where is the proof? Where is the evidence that they sourced the money legally? And the law is there on the land, which states that any such monies that are found in possessions of anybody at all can be frozen until the person is able to prove that it was sourced legitimately. As far as I know, the woman concerned, Madam Cecilia Dapa, has not proven in any public court of law or any law of competent jurisdiction that this money was legitimately obtained. So why on earth is the legal authorities, the Supreme Court, asking for this money to be returned to her? Are we simply throwing our hands up in the air, accepting that corruption is now here to stay? We can't do anything about it. And for that matter, people should continue to amass wealth to themselves while the masses suffer. Remember what Transparency International chair said: when corruption is allowed to fester, it is the ordinary people that suffer. And that is precisely why we are seeing what we are seeing in Ghana. Poverty levels is increasing. The ordinary folk are not able to achieve much for themselves. The gap between the rich and the poor is widening ever beyond anybody's imagination. This cannot continue. So it is about time that Ghanaians sat up and thought for themselves. If we want these people to continue running our country, things can only get worse. They are not ready to fight corruption. They believe it is their right to amass wealth to themselves. The rest of us don't matter. And if they continue running the affairs of our country,
Can you run
the
it up
ordinary
for me,
person
Sam?
simply has no chance of survival. So as far as I'm concerned, they are not interested in fighting corruption. It is part and parcel of who they are, as my brother Godson nicely put it. So we cannot rely on them at all to fight corruption. In fact, they are corruption themselves, if we can call them by another name.
Thank you so much for your input. Yes, I think I agree that this is a public show. Sometimes we need to mention certain names. Thank you for stating that. We're talking about a minister, that is Cecilia Tapa, and we'll be coming to her case later because one of the things that we know for sure is that it's the duty of the special prosecutor to combat corruption. And if we are talking about corruption, then I think it will be okay to mention or talk about such people as we move on. So our listeners, is because of the show, that is why we are directly mentioning people's name so we can get the story and the facts right. We are not attacking you, but we are just stating the facts the way it is. Auntie Kate, there is a question that I've just received from one of our viewers in regards to this same topic that we were talking about, Cecilia Dapa's issue. She is saying that if a minister, what do you think should be done? Let me read the question. It's on my WhatsApp. So I can say, what do you think should be done if a minister, if is found to in this particular situation. I think he's trying. Sometimes people write on WhatsApp, they do the shortcuts, and it's difficult reading them sometimes. So I'm trying to make it. It says so. I think the question is trying to say that if a minister is found in that way, what do you think should be done to such a minister? I think that is what the person is saying. So can you help us in the case of Cecilia Dapa? So if a minister is found, I mean, a lot of money found in somebody's house, and he said, she is saying, or he is saying is from a family. What do you think the state should do in that situation? If you can answer that for our audience.
Yes. First of all, there are laws. Every state, and I'm sure Ghana has laws surrounding these kind of things. Now, in no jurisdiction, let's be honest, in no jurisdiction would you go and find $1 million and more under anybody's bed. If there is $1 million and more under anybody's bed, there are two things that comes into mind: money laundering, drugs, stealing. And she's a minister of state. Even if the money were to be coming from her relatives, there are banks in Ghana. In fact, nowadays, there are more banks in Ghana now than when we were growing up. So what is wrong with the banking system if the money was genuine, or if the money was legally acquired, or if the money was from a family? What have you got to hide that you put your money under the bed, especially for a minister of state? So there are two things that this tells me. It's not a legitimate money. It's either gotten from corrupt means, and in her position, it's not far off. Did she disclose her property before she took up her position? Do we still have that report? We don't. We don't have that report. So corruption to me is the first thing. Money laundering to me is the second thing. And thievery is the third thing. Now, what Comrade Elijah was talking about the institutions. Look at the special prosecutor. Who appoints him? In fact, for corruption to be gradually eliminated or endemic in our society, we need strong institutions and we need transparency of these institutions. Who appointed the special prosecutor? Was it not the president? If you have a president appointing a special prosecutor and one of the president's ministers is found to be in possession of $1 million and over under her bed, do you think that the special prosecutor will have a free hand in dealing with this issue right from the start? If you ask me, in our dispensation, I would say the answer is no. How long did it even take him to remove this woman from office? The woman actually resigned. The president himself did not remove this woman. So we don't have the institutions. We have laws. There are laws in Ghana that says if any minister or if anybody is found to be in possession of such amount of money, the law must take its toll. But also the law is also compromised by appointing authorities or by the systems that we have put in place. And in order to do that, we need strong and transparent institutions. Without that, we cannot fight corruption. In Cecilia Dapa's case, you can see that the special prosecutor tried, but just like Martin Amidu, the appointing authority took hold. We can also look at the judiciary. If you look at the judiciary we have in Ghana, this government has appointed more judges than any other and has put in, it is not a secret, it is public knowledge that they have put in their own party members and cronies. If you look at the General Legal Council, this is not the first time I'll be mentioning it here or you'll be hearing it. It's a debate. The General Legal Council in Ghana currently is a surrogate of the MPP. Therefore, everything that they do that we take to court, you see the result of it. You said it. If anybody is found to be with such an amount of money, right away, judiciary should be on it. Even if not the special prosecutor, the police should be on it. Who appoints the IGP? Is it not the vice president? If the vice president is appointing you as an IGP, and you have one of his ministers with such an amount of money, would you like that minister to take the fall? Because names will be mentioned. And therefore, they will do everything they have to do to make sure that this case is nullified in so many ways. And corruption will keep on festering due to lack of strong institutions, due to lack of strong enforcement. And also, I would like to say this as well. It's our culture. The culture that looks at or that magnify rich people without looking at where their source of money is coming from. Okay? If you are rich in a family, whatever you say is taken seriously. If you are poor, nobody listens to you. And if you are rich, nobody asks you for the source of your money. All they need to know is that if I go to my uncle for this amount of money, I will get. The culture we practice does not also help. So it means that in every one of us, or in our society, everyone wants to be rich. How do we become rich? By stealing from our own selves. We do that. And this practice is endemic in our society. It's really endemic in our society.
Thanks.
So let
Can
me
you
run
up?
I've got 2 more minutes. I'll round up. So for Cecilia Dapa's case, if we have strong institutions, Cecilia Dapa should not be walking freely right now. I would give you the story of Hajia, the lady who is now in US custody. What did the US authorities do? Am I still on air?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. What did the US authority do? They monitored her, and at the right time, they grabbed her. And now she has actually accepted some of the charges that were put to her. So Cecilia Dapa should not be walking a free person. If we have strong judiciary, which is independent and which is allowed to do its work as the law intended it to do. If we have a special prosecutor who is not appointed by the government, but through processes that leads to that. If we have a strong police service, the IGP, you said it, the police are more corrupt. We have an IGP who is being appointed by the vice president. They do everything the party wants them to do. And I've already said, this party is not in the interest.
Don't you think somebody will also say that, the same thing under NDC, it was the government who appoints judges and appoints...
It is true. It is true. And that's why I'm saying we need to build strong institutions. And we need to give those institutions the power to elect their leaders. And also we must make sure that there is transparency, there is accountability. When we have strong institutions, Dr. Austin, you drive in this country. If a police officer stops you, that you don't have MOT or your tie is at the limit, do you offer the police officer a bribe? No.
You dare not.
You dare not, because the institutions are very strong. The police officer knows exactly that if he takes that from you, his job is on the line, his career is on the line. That is what we mean by strong institutions. We must build our institutions so that those who are working in those institutions, they are remunerated accordingly. When they are remunerated accordingly, they do their job with pride and diligence. When they do that, we eliminate corruption. Corruption steals from us. It steals from us, our unborn children, our unborn grandchildren. And therefore, the more we try to eliminate corruption, the better the country develops. The more we entrench corruption, the more we are.
Up for me. Thank you for your point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate, for that submission. Listeners, if you've got any question or comment, you can leave it on our Facebook or WhatsApp, our YouTube channel. On Facebook is Have Your Tech Media, and on the on Facebook Have Your Tech Media, and on YouTube is HYT Africa. So you can bring in your questions, and on our WhatsApp channel is also open, and we will pass your question on to the panelists to answer. Now, we are talking about corruption today, so if you've got any question in regards to that, you can bring it out, and then we'll, as I said, we'll answer it. Mr. Godse, so what measure, because it's very important that we understand the measures the government has taken, to combat corruption, and how effective those measures are. Do you think today the government has got because Kate was talking about strong institutions. So, do you think the government has got strong institutions in place, or some measures at least, to combat corruption? And if you want to measure them, are they really working?
Yeah, thank you, Austin. I think blatantly, if I should answer this question in a few simple words, to me, the measures they've taken, I will sum it up as zero. Totally zero. Total colossal failure on the part of government in terms of any measure to combat corruption. And I say this based on facts that is in the public domain and based on my own personal observation. The first fact that I put out there, you've noticed a corruption index. In the last 2 years, there has been no change. So that is a fact. That the corruption index for the last 2 years has remained the same. Ghana is still corrupt as it was a few years ago. And as a matter of fact, if I roll it back until the time that they came into this current administration came into government, corruption is worse off than it was. So you cannot tell me that you've taken measures and the situation is getting worse. That is the first fact I want to put on the table. The other fact I want to put on the table, if you look at the Auditor General reports that have been issued year on year, it's corruption has been and the irregularities has been on the ascendancy. In 2018, we're looking at a figure of about 3 billion. It has progressively increased and it went to the peak at 17 billion of irregularities in 2020 and current 2021. And in last year, 2022, we're looking at 15 billion. You might think that there has been an intervention to reduce it from 17 billion to 15 billion. But from our point of view, 15 billion is the second highest it's been compared to where it was 3 billion when they came into power. So they've done absolutely nothing to combat corruption. When you come to the institution that also RCK talked about, the special prosecution, how many of them have been changed? Look at how Martin Amidi was removed when he wanted to combat corruption. Look at how he was disgraced and removed when he wanted to combat corruption. A replacement came in, nothing was done. There was no effect. He has no teeth. He had no power to bite. And then you look at the current prosecutor who came in himself and published a whole lot of publication and says that he has given up. There is one thing I just wanted to add to the last question you asked to communicate there. There is one thing being appointed by the executive, but if you are being appointed by the executive and you are empowered to discharge your mandate, that is what we want to see, the very least. But in this case, in Ghana, at the moment as we speak, we have the executive that is corrupt by itself in nature, appointing people into office, not empowering them to do their work, and also interfering into the work that they are doing by its own ways and means. And that is where the cancer is, and that is where the carcass is. Okay. So compared to the NDC time when the NDC were appointing, the NDC was ensuring that these people are empowered and their independency operation was there. I should state that for a fact, and that is a clear difference. And also, there's a saying, I can't remember the exact reference, is that when the executive or when a leader is corrupt, it is by no means the subsidiary management would equally be corrupt. Anyone with a good intention will never be able to function. They will indirectly and over a period of time also become corrupt. And that is for a fact. So let's state that. And so, in terms of the intervention, for me, if I should use the past case as an example, the office of the special prosecutor should have been left alone to investigate and get to the end of it. That is one thing. Secondly, the executive should have also put in some interventions on the side of Cecilia Dapa, because for a minister to behave irresponsibly in that nature by hoarding millions of dollars and cedis in his house is totally unacceptable. She's not fit to be a minister. If those money were from legitimate source, and here let's talk about this. Legitimate source means it would have been transmitted, sent through a banking network. So there should have been evidence that she has withdrawn these money from the banks or has collected that money. Even if that money was moved from the United States to Ghana in raw cash, that should have been declared at US port and it should have been declared at Ghana port. There should have been clear evidence of it. And for a minister even to hold that money in the house instead of returning into a bank for the bank to use to invest in the country for the betterment of the entire people and holding it in the house is the height of irresponsibility. If and I believe for every well-meaning Ghanaian, within 30 days, if you're unable to substantiate how you collected that money, you should be suspended from your portfolio of office until otherwise proven. Nothing like that happened. But instead, what did we see? We had some of the NPP propagandists on radios and TV trying to defend this lady. It is appalling, disappointing, and disgusting. Let's come here, guys. And I want to also state that they haven't done anything. And I continue to emphasize that. And that is why today we are here as a state, as a country. We are bankrupt and nobody knows how we got there. The first IMF tranche of money that we received was $6 million. But today, you and I know that the vice president office alone in 1 year has spent $12 million. That means the money that we, the state, has been given by IMF, the vice president office will finish it and finish it in 6 months. Where are we going? Where are the measures from the executives that is being flowed down? Nothing. There is no discipline. There is no accountability. There is no foresight. There is no vision. There is no planning. And obviously, in this environment, then corruption is the only thing. Because when the money comes, they don't have any purpose for it. And the only way they will have to make it disappear is to share it among themselves. That is what is happening in this executive. And it's hard time we Ghanaians mobilize and tell these leaders enough is enough. How can Gabi's office, legal office alone, benefit $2 million in 1 year for doing what? In doing what? $2 million in 1 year for providing legal assistance to what? A JAPA or PDS. What a shame. That $2 million, my brother, that is 1/3 of the $6 million IMF gave Ghana in this very IMF bailout scheme, the first tranche. 1/3 of it. That is how much these people are
for me, please.
As a country. Thank you very much. And so, Mr. Austin, it's important that Ghanaians wake up that some people are enjoying at the expense and the life of others. And for me, it's a shame. We have hospitals that do not have CT scan machine.
We'll come to that, Mr. Carson. We'll come to that. So just get yourself a rest. I'll come to the infrastructure issue. Yeah, listeners, you're listening to the Direct Talk Show. We are talking about corruption in Ghana. And I think in Mr. Goldson's last remarks, he said something about the lives ordinary Ghanaians have been affected. Let me come to my brother Elijah. So how does corruption in the public sector affect the daily lives of the ordinary Ghanaian? Like me, myself, I'm an ordinary Ghanaian. And how does corruption in the public sector affect my daily lives as a person, as a Ghanaian?
Fantastic question again, Dr. Austin. Let me bring in a different perspective to this idea of corruption and how, again, data backs up what we are saying. One way of judging the performance of a country as far as tackling corruption is concerned is the level of foreign direct investment that you get. And these are IMF, World Bank, and OEC corroborated data, which are published jointly. And the picture they paint of Ghana over the years, right through from the 60s, is this. foreign direct investment as a percentage of GDP in the 1990s, when we had a revolution in place, was around 2.2%. When President Mills took office in 2008, it shot up to 9.5% of GDP. And that continued throughout John Mahama's administration, albeit slightly lower than the peak of 9.5%. When this government took office, what did we see? FDI, foreign direct investment, as a percentage of GDP tumbled and is back to where it was in 1990. So what have we done? We've gone a full cycle, started from a very mediocre level, went up with great input from the prof and his entourage or his team of officers with JDM as the head of the economic management team. He took responsibility and dealt with the environment to ensure a conducive environment for foreign direct investment. And what did we see? Ghana recorded the longest period of double-digit economic growth. And these people took over and they have knocked it right down back to 2%. And as we speak, it's actually going further down. What's the meaning of this to the ordinary person on the street? Joblessness levels are going up. That is why we have exceptionally high levels of youth unemployment. Crime rates go up. Life expectancy is going down. If people don't have jobs, they don't have the means to look after themselves and their families. So what do we see? People are dying prematurely. Healthcare systems are suffering. You know, there's simply not enough going about to take care of the day-to-day needs of any individual. And I would like to put it simply, if we look at a family unit of, say, 5 people, and there is only one member of the family unit working, say the father, and he's bringing in a certain amount of income monthly. A number of scenarios are possible here. If that money is well looked after, they are probably likely to invest, they are probably likely to save, and they may generate businesses that will employ maybe the mother and probably one of the children. So you have a family unit that is growing in financial strength. Let's look at it from another point of view. If that income brought in is constantly siphoned away by one of the children, for example, what happens? Now, a fraction of the money that you are coming in is going away through corruption, because that is a way of looking at corruption from the family unit point of view. So you are stealing from the coffers. And what do we see? Now there is not enough to feed the family. There isn't enough to educate the children. There isn't enough to live on, let alone save. So what do we see? The family unit is going to deteriorate. And this is precisely what our government is doing to us by allowing corruption to fester and clearly not having the will to fight it. You know, so it is a very serious scenario that is not helping us in the right way. And that is why youth unemployment is going up. Our all economic indicators are pointing in the wrong direction as a direct result of the ill effects of corruption. You know, so there's something that, whichever way you look at it, it is bad for Ghana. It gives us a bad name internationally. Nobody is willing to come and invest because they know their capital will be stolen, let alone making any profit. And that they would rather send their investment to Cote d'Ivoire. They will send it to Togo. They will send it to Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, and all of our neighboring countries. And that is why their economies are a lot more stable compared to ours. under the direct management of the so-called economic waste kid, So corruption is a very serious canker that we cannot afford to allow to fester.
Okay. Thank you, Elijah, for your input. Viewers, we'll go for a short commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to zoom into another sector. We're going to look into the poor infrastructure. It's something that is dear to my heart. And so I will be pushing a lot of questions myself. So without wasting much of your time, get yourself something to drink. We'll be right back very soon. We're going for a short commercial break. Thank you for tuning in.
Sedan necessary Ghana for United Monyankopon. Se wama hanat rapid response for every UK. Aba biebie our Ghana. Se do Leicester UK. Now so pe adwumafu a oye cleaner. Obia beka hanat rapid response. HRR. Enti se ye ofie ana wo demo. Wo betu ombu ase ayiyi ho. Clean ho kama. Ase ya hye obi bia ma. Na se ye office nso a wo be horo ho, apepa ho, aye ho neat. Na se wo carpet nso a aye fia. Fakoma hanat rapid for na on cleaning and sun dry and famount. Safe ni wasi ufia wie na wutu akomu anase office nso a frɛ wo mo no de kan ego clean fie ho ani adan ni nyina mu ansakura na watu akɔ wo horo ka bia eyi mu fi nyina firi ho no obetima ba ofie abaya ma wo anase obetimi so de akɔ mo ho na wo mo laundry ni die eya dutwam wo mo abetima ba ofie abaje oniama no akosi ato abobɔ so kama hanat rapid response abama Bia in the hospitals, schools, hostels, companies, hotels. Any bia if you will bia unya clean dear. Woman ye cleaning masters. Fisho much across the CA. Ewa hojo. Would you any edge Tinga Johnson? Dana Adum Joy Restaurant Ewumuno. M1 or 0202 608938 and 0546 257 435. See a cano hanat dia a professionalism, any customer satisfaction and a priority.
Welcome back, our dear viewers and our cherished listeners who are listening to the Direct Talk Show. It comes your way every Sunday UK time. Today we are talking about corruption and poor healthcare infrastructure in Ghana. So you can send in your questions and your comments, and we'll pass it on to our panelists to. Yes, I just received a question. So I think this question is personally directed to Mr. Godson. So before, this is going to be a brief one. So, within the next few minutes, somebody is saying that what is the direct impact? I think it's the last question related in our daily lives as ordinary Ghanaians. So do you care to share any light on that? It's like directed to you personally. You mentioned your name. So do you care to share anything in regards to the impact of corruption on the lives of ordinary Ghanaians like myself, not those in power? But I think you mentioned something about the executives taken away. I think that's the reason why the question is directed to you. So can you briefly shoot it, and then we go to the next?
Thank you, Austin. I think there is a huge impact on our daily lives and to the ordinary Ghanaians. And I'll take some few examples and then give you what the impact is. For example, under this current government, there has been a lot of printing of money. Printing of money, it's also a corrupt act. And let's put it that way, and that is why it's regulated. If you print money, what happens indirectly then is that it devalues people's savings indirectly. So printing of money is stealing from individuals as a collector. So if you print 1 billion today, straight away the inflation figures and the exchange rate will plummet. Inflation goes high, exchange rate goes down as well. So this government indirectly printing money has an impact on the ordinary Ghanaians by inflation going high and the exchange rate also taking a hit. Okay, so the reason why you see the exchange rate just rocketing high going up is because there is a lot of printing money, there is a lot of stealing happening, and there is a lot of corrupt act happening. So whenever you see the exchange rate going high, as a Ghanaian, be yourself aware that that is happening to you. Someone is stealing your money indirectly. Another thing that happens from corrupt act is that, as we saw in the case of Cecilia Dapa and everybody else, they don't keep these money in the banks. As they don't keep these money in the local banks, and for that matter, in Ghanaian banks, our banks are therefore short of capital to operate, to give loans, and to meet loans demand. So you end up paying high interest for loans that you go for because the demand is outstripping the supply. So the ordinary Ghanaians can borrow. What it means is that the ordinary Ghanaians can have investment capital to grow their businesses to execute projects. So they tend to looking at other sources of having money. And some of them can go as far as borrowing money abroad to execute projects. And so that is the impact. And then at the end of the day, if they borrow from other sources, become very expensive, because when they finish executing the project in cities, by which time the valuation has gone down, they need to exchange and pay their sources back. That goes directly to impact we Ghanaians and our livelihood. Another thing that you have is that there is delayed project. When the monies are stolen from the system and not saved in our banks and they're taken somewhere, you saw in the case of Cecilia Dapa in her house, hidden in the house, it's no longer available. So the government cannot, and the various departments haven't got the opportunity to even borrow to execute projects. So projects get delayed, projects do not get completed, and the ordinary Ghanaians suffer. When these money are also not in our banking institution, there is less money in circulation. Because he can't shishi ni obi abotom. Okay, and that is what it is. So the ordinary seller who is selling on the roadside, people want to patronize, people want to pay, but there is no money in circulation. For that matter, everybody is running on empty pocket, and so businesses and local businesses collapse. And virtually, when all these things happen, the macro economy begins to collapse, and that is why we have poor macroeconomy indicators at the moment. And as my brother said, external investment goes down. And you realize that businesses that are already doing okay and still doing okay, they are afraid to invest because people will not have the money to patronize any more production and they will be compelled. So the impact on a day-to-day ordinary Ghanaian is that someone is taking away your feeding money through the act of corruption, and at the same time making it difficult for you to be able to borrow even to survive. So borrowing, which is the last chance of survivor, is also taken away from you. That is how wicked and extent corrupt acts are. And so we should not take it lightly. We should stand up against it. And especially when it's coming from our leaders, it means it will permeate through the entire organization, and we, the ordinary people, will suffer. Thank you, and I'll land my case there for now.
Hi, thank you for the input. You can bring in your questions as well, and we'll pass it on to our panelists. Before we zoom into this discussion, I've got a very special guest. He's a special guest because he's just passing through to come and speak briefly on the poor healthcare infrastructure topic that we're about to discuss. And then we will continue with our discussion. So I'll call upon Razak Azuko to enter into the studio, and then we will actually, ask him a few questions in regards to that poor healthcare infrastructure, and then we'll come to our panelists, with all the other questions. So shall we welcome Mr. Razak Azuko into the studios? Okay, whilst we are waiting for him to join us, Auntie Kate, let me ask you the first question in regards to the poor healthcare infrastructure. What are the main challenges? Oh, I think we have I'll come back to you very soon.
right.
So, Razak, welcome to the Direct Shock Show. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Doc.
Okay, welcome to the Direct Shock Show. I just want you to share your views, since you are a physician assistant in Ghana and you've been working in the health care settings for a while. Can you share your own view, or views in regards to poor healthcare infrastructure system or situation in our motherland, Ghana?
All right. So thanks for having me. Let me also say good evening to my colleague panelists here, and then to also say good evening to our people back home in Ghana. I have been listening to the discussion, and I must say that to start with, the discussion on corruption to me is very pivotal in whatever discussions that we intend to take here this evening. With your question directly, giving a response, as someone who has worked in Ghana in the healthcare system in excess of 10 years, I have come face to face with the challenges that our health system faces, and I will be shedding light on a few of them. But I want to say that corruption has a very pervasive way in every aspect of our lives, so much with health as well. So if you look at Ghana specifically, our health system is such that most of our people tend to access the primary health care. And when I say primary health care, certainly you'll be looking at the CHIPS centers, the health centers, the hospitals, then the teaching hospitals. It is in that structure. Most of the rural folks, those who have fevers, malarias, they tend to go to the CHIPS center, which is very close to them. It is for that reason that the NDC government under President John Mahama have started to build chip centers across the country. And I believe before we left power, they have completed in excess of thousands. And then there were other projects of the chip centers in various stages of completion. But this government, unfortunately, as you say, have abandoned them. Not only chip centers, there are so many hospitals that we started that are left to rot in the bushes. I can quickly talk of the Afari Hospital, military hospital in Kumasi. I can talk of the Kumau, the Fomena, I think I get the name right. Then Garu in Upper East, Salga in the East Gonja district. Then a lot of them. So when you look at these gaps in the infrastructure delivery of the country, then you certainly be sure that it will have an impact on the health of the people. So therefore, we won't be very surprised to see that for so many years that this country have successfully put measures on the back door. This government have brought measures upon us. I usually say they brought it because it is because of their ineptitude, their failure to do what is right, got this country to have episodes of measles in certain parts of the country, especially the northern in the Upper East regions, which is something that is unusual to have a country of this nature experiencing episodes of measles is uncalled for. Then moving from the physical infrastructure, let's look at equipment. We are all aware of the recent issues that has to do with dialysis in our nation's capital, where people cannot have access to dialysis. Dialysis, which is something that should, in my opinion, should be in every regional hospital and make it very accessible. Somebody in a village like Bantafargo, in somewhere in the Upper East region, who has a kidney problem, have to find money and transport him or herself to Accra. just to have dialysis. And when you get there, the dialysis is not also even functioning. So our country, when you want to do a proper and a very frank assessment of our infrastructure needs, we are in a very paralyzed state, and it is because of the kind of leadership that we have. Because if you have a leader or a team of leadership that fails to reason, excuse my language, I may be sounding very hard, but that to me is what it is. Because when you fail to plan and then to execute what is necessary to keep your citizens healthy, then we find ourselves in this mess. And like the saying goes, a healthy population is a healthy nation, isn't it? So you have deficient in health infrastructure. We don't have a proper health policies, though those in existence are there, but these things needs to be well thought through so that we can have a proper delivery of healthcare services. Then you look at the other angle that's to do with the personnel within the health system. You ask yourself, the nurses, what are our condition of services? The physician assistants, what are our condition of services? The doctors, are we okay? So this government, in my candid opinion, is a failure. We need to rise up, not with arms, but with our voices, with our power to kick it out. Because until we are able to do that, then bring in people who reason, people who have the feeling and understand the systems, we are not making any headway. So I just want to pause here. Maybe if you have another question to ask me, I will make a contribution.
All right, you just hang around, and if I have anything, I will just come to you. Thank you for sharing your personal views in regards to the healthcare settings in Ghana. I've got a question that I'll be asking you later, but let me come to our panelists, and then I've got a couple of questions for them, so that the time is running out, so we'll be quick on this particular subject. I was asking Kate, what are the main challenges related to the health care infrastructure in Ghana? And I think Mr. Razak has mentioned few of them. So from the only champion woman on our midst, so what do you want to say from, women perspective? We want to hear from the mother's perspective, the challenges related to healthcare that is impacting on the lives of average women in Ghana.
I think the first thing I'll talk about is accessibility to the healthcare. So accessibility to the facilities itself, as our comrade Razak spoke about, is an issue. The chip compounds usually are not within proximal areas for the people in the rural areas to have access to. So this is a big issue, access to healthcare provision in the first place. The second is affordability. We do talk about the National Health Insurance card and what treatments are permitted and what treatments are not permitted, what category of people are on it and what category of people are not on it. It's something that we need to look at, and I'm sure that in our manifesto from last 4 years, there was a plan to look into it, which I'm sure Mahama and the manifesto committee would look into it and bring out something for 2024. After all, we were the ones who initiated healthcare, this National Health Insurance Scheme. MPP will say it is Kufuor's initiative, but it was never Kufuor's initiative. Go back to Rawlings's time, and you will see where the National Health Insurance Scheme started. It was during Kufuor's time that the implementation took place, but it was a plan that was initiated during Rawlings's time. So National Health Insurance is NDC's baby. And as part of those plans is what you saw with John Dramani Mahame's chip compound development and bringing access to healthcare to everybody who needed it. So affordability, accessibility. And then also the equipment. yeah, the equipment and the needed infrastructure and the needed resources to run those healthcares. In 2022, I went to my village. It's not a village, it's a district capital, actually, Jasikan. And I went to the district hospital in Jasikan and I wept. And I wept. I have been in hospitals. I work for the NHS. Before I went into teaching, I was a healthcare assistant. Occasionally, I still go to the wards. So I see the provision of resources, gloves, aprons, dispensers for hand washing, running water. And for a hospital to function properly, sanitary conditions. I mean, common, simple flush toilets. There were issues. This is supposed to be a place of healing, a place of health. But when you visit most of our cheap compounds,
Run it up for me, Kate.
you
Sorry.
visit most of our hospitals, what do you see? You see the lack of all these things. Simple anesthetics, simple disinfectants to clean the wards and make it germ-free or even minimize the germs is a problem. Beds for sick patients to lie on, mattresses, bed sheets for sick patients to even lie on to receive treatment is a problem. So not only is the healthcare not
You've muted yourself, Kate.
access is a challenge,
Yeah,
resources
right
to run them is a challenge, and also affordability is also a challenge. And just to round up, I just want to say that corruption does not only impact on we, the generation now. If we are not careful, corruption would impact on the generations after us. Okay, 1 minute, I'll round up. 1 minute.
You have 20 seconds.
Now, corruption will take away good quality education. Corruption would also take away good quality health provisions. Corruption will also take away good livelihoods and also future professional and innovative development. So corruption is indeed a canker, and it has to be eradicated from our societies. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for sharing your opinions. You're listening to the Lyric Talk Show. I think I've got a question from one of our viewers, our audience. It's also directed to Mr. Godson. And he say, can you or could you share some of the typings are so tiny and so shortcut? So, you know, the way that some people type. So could you share specific examples where corruption has directly affected the quality of healthcare services in Ghana?
Thank you very much, Austin. And I will take that question in very simplistic term. As my brother Razak was speaking, I just Googled how much does the dialysis machine cost. And it came up, the average cost of a dialysis machine is about $7,000. That if no one's heart is broken for seeing that figure, and a whole teaching hospital, Kolebu, gets shut down because these dialysis machines are not working, then as a state, what kind of heart do we have? Stones are far better, have emotions. I just Google as well, CT scans, how much did they cost? The most expensive one, $500,000. The 2 million that is gone to Gabi Ochidako's a legal firm can buy us for the $12 million that has been spent on negotiating and discussing in Japan could have bought us a state 24 CT scan machine. I lost a brother-in-law simply because the hospital she was taken to after an accident had no CT scan. He was sent home and the following day he died. What are we doing to ourselves as Ghanaians? What are our leaders doing to us? What vision do they have for us? Dialysis machine that if the person does not get the blood cleaned, the person will die. It's an immediate death sentence on that person. And it costs $6,000 to have one machine working. Why are we even talking about just only the teaching hospitals having it? Why is it not happening at every district level? Here, I walk through every GP center and they do have them. You don't necessarily have to go to the hospital. Out of office or whatever time, you can access that. Why? What is the value for our leaders? What is the value of life for our leaders? They are leading us because we want human beings to survive and make an impact on this earth before they go. But they are not leading because they want to send them to their early graves. Leaders should wake up and make decisions with compassion and with justice and with fairness in their hands. How would we expect the doctors to work and treat someone with dialysis without a dialysis machine? Nobody can even assess the impact that is having on these doctors and nurses in the hospital when they go and the machine is not working and they are just trying alternative for that patient, knowing very well that that patient, when he leaves and goes home, is going to die. What is the impact? I read some of these things and I become so passionate about, and I look at the amount involved. And these amount, one individual will leave Ghana, go to the UK or US in the name of a business and pay that money to a hotel and eat with their girlfriends or boyfriend and exit and
All
go
right.
back.
Mr. Godfrey, come on.
I rest my case
you
because
made
when I
your
read
point.
some of
I
these
think
things, I become so passionate about it.
I
But it takes
understand.
a simple
That's what I
decision
said.
to a leader to make an impact.
Okay, we've made your point. Thank you so much for your submission. Mr. Elijah, you were a pharmacist. So talking about the healthcare is something that I know you have something to say. So being a pharmacist, what do you think are the challenges facing you as a pharmacist within the healthcare sector? I want you to make personally, because you are a pharmacist, you work in the industry. So, what are the challenges facing you as a pharmacist within the healthcare settings and the impact on the ordinary Ghanaian?
The first thing that comes to mind is access to good quality medicines. They are effectively not available. If they are, you are not certain of the quality. You're not even sure if the label, what's on the label, is what's inside the packaging. Because we know counterfeit medicines is a big issue in our part of the world. And we have things coming from China and India in facilities that have not been properly licensed. And because there are no proper checks and balances in our part of the world, people are simply shipping these things in and they are substandard and killing people as a result. You know, it goes back to what Brother Razak started by saying. If you've heard of the 6P principle before, it basically states that proper planning prevents particularly poor performance. We fail to plan in our healthcare delivery systems. These are the results. I believe that we need to universalize access to the NHIS. We know that a significant fraction of our people are not in any paid employment. We have to look at children and the elderly, for example, who may have left employment or probably did not have any meaningful employment in their lifetime at all. So we need to universalize access to these groups and somehow find funding to cater for them. Because believe you me, if a small chunk of our population doesn't get good care, it's going to invariably affect the rest of us. You know, so these are some of the little things that we need to be looking into. And I strongly believe that we need to start looking into preventative medicine. And in the show that we did with the communications team of the UK and Ireland chapter, yeah, I mentioned there that we need to use pharmacies a lot more because this is a very, very serious resource that we have. Very highly trained professionals who are effectively reduced to selling medicines at the counter. They have a lot more knowledge and a lot more experience. As a matter of fact, in various training institutions, pharmacists and medicines go through the same curriculum for the first 3 years. And then subsequently, pharmacists specialize in medicines, doctors specialize in diagnosis and treatment. In fact, in certain places like Canada, doctors do the diagnosis and pass the patient to the pharmacist for treatment, because we are the experts, the real professionals in medicines. And we need to start looking at these things if we really want to improve the patient journey for the ordinary Ghanaian. So there is a lot we can do as a nation, and we need to start thinking and planning properly. Otherwise, we'll continue to fail and continue to head in the wrong direction, killing our people unnecessarily.
Thank you, my panelists. Thank you, Mr. Godson, Kate, and Elijah, and our guest, Rasha, for showing up on our show today. Our time is up. We bringing the program to, and I think now it's getting hotter now. We will continue on the subject next week if we have time. Now questions are coming in, by the time our time is up. We are out of time now. So thank you for tuning in. Direct Talk Show comes your way every Sunday, 7 p.m. UK time. If you've got any advert that you want us to promote, your business or something for you, you can contact the team and we will do that for you. Thank you for your input, all the panelists and all our viewers. I will see you all next week. Stay blessed and stay healthy. Bye.